It all started on my 18th birthday, a night I thought would be ordinary but instead turned into something that would shake up the way I saw Ashley Carter forever, and even now, just thinking back on it makes me wonder if that was the moment when everything between us really began, because Ashley was never just another girl in class, she was the school beauty, the rich girl with the perfect family background, the one with the newest clothes, the expensive rides, and the kind of confidence that made her feel untouchable. But under all that pride was something messy and vulnerable that only I got to see, though not in the way she wanted that night, because when she stood up in front of everyone at the party and looked me straight in the eyes and said, "I like you," the entire room froze, and every single head turned toward me, waiting for my answer, the air heavy with gossip that was about to explode. But I was me, Ethan Walker, the so-called study machine, the guy who was too serious, too focused, too cold, and I couldn't play along with something that might or might not be real, so I shook my head and said, "Sorry," right there in front of the crowd, watching her face go pale for a split second before she spun around and laughed it off like it was nothing, telling her girlfriends that it was just a punishment for losing a game, that she never meant it, that it was just a dare, and to drive the point home she even pulled out her phone, waved it around, and deleted me off iMessage in front of everyone, like she was desperate to prove she didn't care. But if she truly didn't, why did her hands tremble the slightest bit when she pressed delete, why did her eyes flicker toward me before she turned away, and why, later that night, did my phone light up with messages from her that tore apart the mask she had just put on, starting with those three simple words, "I hate you," which popped up at 10 p.m. While I was deep into a physics problem, and at first I just frowned at the message and ignored it, thinking it was just more theatrics from Ashley, but then another came, and another, and soon my screen was flooded with her frustration, her sadness, her embarrassment spilling out in long rants like she couldn't stop herself, saying things like, "Why did you reject me in front of so many people? Do you know how much courage it took me to say that?" And then, slipping out words that sounded like they came from somewhere raw and unguarded, "I hate you, husband, you don't even like me," and reading that, I had to stop and stare because did she really just call me that, did the Ashley Carter, the arrogant girl who always acted like she was untouchable, just refer to me as if we were already married, and I didn't know if I should laugh, get annoyed, or actually feel bad, because the tone in those texts was nothing like the image she carried at school. She sounded more like a wounded puppy, abandoned and desperate for comfort, not the glamorous birthday girl who had just laughed off rejection in front of the whole class, and the more the messages came, the more I realized that maybe I had crushed something fragile in her without meaning to, but I was still me, and my instinct was to stay out of messy feelings. So I put the phone down and went back to my physics problems, though the truth is my mind kept wandering back to that screen lighting up with, "I hate you," over and over, until finally the system stopped me from replying with even a question mark, the little red exclamation point reminding me she had blocked me when she deleted me, which only made the whole situation more absurd, because here she was sending message after message to someone she had cut off, not realizing I could still see everything she wrote, and in that moment I understood just how bad she must have been spiraling, stuck between her pride and her actual feelings, too stubborn to admit the truth, too emotional to hold it in, and when I walked into school the next morning, the difference between her words at night and her act in the daylight was so stark it made me wonder if I had dreamed it, because Ashley was the same as ever, collecting homework with that indifferent tone, tossing papers on my desk without a glance, chatting with her group of friends like I didn't exist, the picture of arrogance and distance, and I almost convinced myself the whole flood of messages had been a virus or some weird glitch until, during math discussion that afternoon, another notification buzzed in my pocket, and when I glanced down, it was her again, raw and jealous, asking if I liked that nerd and calling my taste terrible, and when I looked up, she was staring at me from across the classroom with that mix of anger and insecurity that no one else ever saw, before slamming her chair back. Like she wanted to storm out but stayed rooted in place, and it hit me that this wasn't just a one-time outburst, it was the start of something deeper, something I didn't yet have the courage to define, but whether I wanted to or not, I had just become the center of Ashley Carter's storm, and there was no way this story was going to fade quietly, not after that night, not after those messages, because this was only the beginning. After that night, things between Ashley and me became complicated in a way I hadn't expected, because while in front of everyone she kept her mask perfectly intact, smiling, laughing, and pretending her so-called confession had only been a silly dare, behind the scenes my phone became a battlefield where her pride fought against her vulnerability every single night. And every time I saw her name pop up on my screen I couldn't help but hesitate, because I knew what was waiting inside wasn't the glamorous Ashley Carter everyone admired, but a girl who seemed lost, torn between rage and desperation, typing messages that alternated between, "I hate you," and, "Husband, why won't you pay attention to me," as if those two identities couldn't reconcile within her. And I won't lie, part of me found it overwhelming, like I was suddenly dragged into someone else's drama I never signed up for, but another part of me, the part one didn't want to admit even to myself, felt strangely drawn to her rawness, to the way her pride cracked open and revealed a side no one else got to see, though in class she carried on like nothing had happened, ignoring me in the daylight and only acknowledging me when she tossed my homework onto the desk with that same careless flick of her wrist, as if I were just another classmate, no different from anyone else. And that contradiction messed with my head more than I wanted to admit, because how could the same girl who wouldn't even look me in the eye at noon be the one filling my phone with frantic jealousy by night, asking me if I was walking home with another girl, if I liked someone else, if I even noticed her at all, like a jealous girlfriend who had no right to call herself that, and yet somehow I could feel how real her words were, how much of her pride she was swallowing just to send them, and the more she did it, the harder it was to dismiss her as just playing around, because nobody who was just pretending would let themselves sound that pitiful, that insecure, that needy. And I started to realize Ashley Carter wasn't as untouchable as she wanted the world to believe, not to me anyway. I remember one afternoon during gym class, while I was playing basketball with some guys, my phone buzzed again, and I saw her message saying, "Are you playing ball to attract attention from other girls? Ethan, no one else looks as good as me, do you even realize that? My figure is perfect, do you want to touch it? It's free for you," and I just froze, staring at the words, not knowing whether to laugh, feel embarrassed, or get angry, because it was such a weird mix of arrogance and pleading, like she didn't know how to express what she really felt, so she resorted to the most ridiculous things to get my attention. And later, when I was walking home with a classmate who happened to be one of the top students, she blew up my phone again, asking if I was really just going home, if we were going somewhere else, warning me not to get distracted by puppy love, because it would ruin my grades, lecturing me like she cared about my future, but ending it with, "Husband, who are you talking to on the phone, why is it taking more than 2 minutes, timing me down to the second as if she had any right to," and I couldn't help but think how insane it was, because this was the same Ashley who barely spared me a glance in class, and yet she was watching me so closely, obsessing over every little thing, and I wondered if maybe I was the only one who saw how fragile she really was. Still, I tried to ignore it, to bury myself in studying, convincing myself she'd get over this phase soon enough, because a girl like Ashley was all passion and no patience, but I was wrong, because instead of fading, her presence in my life only grew stronger, and she seemed determined not to let me forget her, no matter how hard I tried to push her away. I'll never forget that Saturday night when the school building was nearly empty, the halls quiet, the air heavy with the scent of chalk and cold winter wind sneaking through the windows, because as I was heading downstairs, reviewing vocabulary under my breath, she suddenly appeared at the bottom of the stairs, blocking my path like she had been waiting for me all along, her face stiff, her expression complicated, like she wanted to say something but couldn't, and when I tried to brush past her, she grabbed my arm and blurted out, "Why did you reject me?" And for a second I thought I misheard her, because wasn't she the one who insisted it was all a joke, a punishment from a game, the one who deleted me in front of everyone, so why was she asking me that now? Her voice strained, her eyes flickering with something raw, and when I just stared at her, stunned, she added quickly, "Don't think too much, I'm just curious, that's all. It's not like it matters, but why did you reject me?" And I could see her pride and vulnerability warring inside her, like she wanted me to give her some kind of answer but couldn't admit why, and maybe it was cruel, maybe it was childish, but I told her flatly, "Because your grades are too bad," and the look on her face in that moment was priceless: shock, humiliation, anger, and something else I couldn't name, like she couldn't believe I would say something so blunt. And she stormed off without another word, not texting me for days afterward, not even handing me homework herself, as if she had finally decided to cut me off. But I should have known better, because Ashley Carter was not the type to give up, not when she had already let her pride crack open this far, and sure enough, a week later, I caught sight of her under a tree during gym, clutching something to her chest, and when her friend Chloe tried to tease her about having a love letter, it turned out Ashley was actually memorizing vocabulary, hiding it like it was a shameful secret. And when the other girls exposed her, she blushed so hard she couldn't even defend herself, but later that night she spammed me again, crying about how embarrassed she was, promising she wouldn't let me look down on her anymore, swearing she'd prove she wasn't fickle, that she would catch up to me no matter what, and I realized then that what I had dismissed as a spoiled rich girl's game was turning into something much bigger, something she was willing to change herself for, and whether I liked it or not, Ashley Carter had set her sights on me, and I could already tell this was only the beginning of her persistence, the kind of persistence that could turn my whole senior year upside down, and deep down I knew the story between us wasn't anywhere close to ending, it was just starting to heat up. After that night when Ashley swore she wouldn't let me look down on her, things started to shift in ways I couldn't ignore even if I wanted to, because the Ashley Carter everyone knew, the spoiled, playful, and arrogant school beauty who spent breaks gossiping with her friends, flaunting her wealth, and acting like nothing in the world could touch her, suddenly wasn't quite the same anymore, at least not when it came to me, because while she still carried herself with that same confidence on the surface, the truth was she began to study, seriously, and not in a half-hearted way but with a determination that was almost frightening, and the craziest part was she tried to cover it up like she was embarrassed about being caught working hard, inventing excuses like, "My family said they'll cut off my card if I don't behave this month," or, "I made a bet with my childhood friend, and if I win, I'll get a limited edition game," and saying it all with that same disdainful tone so nobody would suspect she was actually trying for me, but I could see it in the way she lingered near my desk with her textbook, pretending to be casual while asking me questions, and every time I explained a problem to her she acted annoyed, like I was wasting her time, but the next second she'd take my water bottle without asking, stomp off to the fountain, refill it, and slam it back on my desk like she was doing me some huge favor, only for my phone to buzz minutes later with messages like, "Husband, you made me cry again, why do you hate my handwriting so much," or, "You're so mean, but I'll forgive you because you're smart," and honestly, it was exhausting but also kind of ridiculous in a way that made me smile when I shouldn't have, because she never said these things to my face, only through texts, and in class she continued to act like I was just a stranger. But the proof of her effort came quickly, because when the monthly exams rolled around, Ashley shocked everyone by improving her total score by 20 points, which might not sound like much to an outsider, but in a competitive senior year class like ours, it was enough to make her the talk of the entire grade, and even the homeroom teacher held up her test paper to praise how neat her handwriting had become, which drew laughter from the whole class since it used to look like chicken scratch. And Ashley buried her face in her arms out of embarrassment, glaring at me like it was my fault, but later that night she spammed my phone with crying emojis followed by, "Husband, I did it, I really improved, aren't you proud of me, please praise me, I'll wag my tail for you if you just say yes," and I sat there staring at my phone, wondering how the proud, untouchable Ashley Carter had turned into this girl begging for recognition, and why she wanted it from me so badly when she could have had the admiration of anyone else in school. After that, it was like a switch flipped for her and even for her group of friends, because suddenly the girls who used to spend breaks laughing and gossiping were trying to study, reciting poetry with bleary eyes during morning reading, and I couldn't help but laugh at how Ashley's change had started a small revolution in our class, but the truth was she was still the most intense of them all, constantly messaging me at night before and after tests, going from overconfident to panicked within hours, sending texts like, "Ethan, I know I aced it, you'll see, I'll be amazing this time," in the morning, and, "Baby, I think I didn't write enough words in the essay, please don't think I'm stupid, I was just nervous," by noon, and by evening she'd be in full meltdown mode with messages like, "I'm worthless, I don't deserve you, I'll just go repeat senior year, will you still wait for me if I'm a grade behind you?" And though I never replied to half of them, I read every single one, because deep down I couldn't bring myself to ignore her anymore, not when I knew how much courage it must have taken for her to lower herself like this after spending so many years building up that untouchable image. When the results came out and Ashley was praised again for her improvement, her friends half-jokingly dragged her outside calling her a traitor for studying instead of playing, but I saw the way she glanced at me, head held high like a puppy wagging its tail proudly after finally being praised, and in that moment I understood something had changed between us, even if neither of us had the guts to say it out loud. Still, Ashley wasn't all confidence and progress, because there were nights when she broke down completely, sending messages like, "Husband, I'll give you all the companies my family owns if that helps me offset some scores. Does money count in your world? Please stop being so strict," only to follow it up later with, "That wasn't me, I was sleepwalking, don't believe it, but I really will give you everything in the future." And reading that, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry, because here was the richest, most spoiled girl in class offering me everything she had, not even realizing I wasn't interested in her wealth at all, only in understanding why she had chosen me of all people to fall apart for. As the semester rolled on, I watched Ashley change day by day, coming earlier than anyone else, staying later, even taking books with her to the bathroom, and though her pride made her avoid me in front of others, she always found little excuses to circle back to me, and each time she promised, whether through words or actions, that she would never let me down, I began to believe her just a little more, even as I tried to tell myself not to get involved. But deep down, I already knew I was in too deep, because every time I saw her red eyes, every time she timed my phone calls or begged for my praise, I felt something tugging at me, something I couldn't ignore forever, and I realized Ashley Carter wasn't just a spoiled rich girl anymore. She was becoming someone I couldn't push out of my life no matter how hard I tried, and that terrified me, because this was still only the beginning, and the college entrance exams were looming, and I had no idea where her persistence, or my wavering heart, was going to take us next. Winter came faster than I expected, and by the time the finals were approaching, everyone in senior year was already under crushing pressure, but Ashley Carter was on a different level, and I could feel her pushing herself harder than anyone else, almost like she was racing against something only she could see, and while she still played it cool in front of her friends, rolling her eyes whenever they teased her about studying too much, the truth was she was spending almost every waking moment grinding through problems, asking me questions whenever she could corner me, and then acting like it was no big deal when I gave her the answers. Yet later that same night my phone would light up with her messages, full of drama and desperation, saying things like, "Husband, you made me cry again today, you were laughing at my handwriting, how can you be so heartless," followed by, "But I'll forgive you because you're still the best. Don't forget to drink water, I refilled it for you," and honestly I didn't know what to make of it anymore, because it was like living with two versions of her: the Ashley who acted untouchable during the day, and the Ashley who confessed every raw, insecure thought to me at night, and no matter how many times I told myself to ignore her, I couldn't, not when I could feel how serious she was becoming, not when she looked at me with those red eyes that betrayed her pride. The finals came and went, and Ashley shocked everyone again by making another huge leap in her scores, enough to silence the classmates who had mocked her, enough to make the teachers praise her openly, but she didn't even seem excited, because the first thing she did afterward was spam my phone with crying emojis and then type, "Husband, will you still think I'm stupid even though I tried so hard? I'll keep trying until you're proud of me," and I didn't reply, but the truth is I couldn't stop thinking about how much she had changed, all because of me. Then came the winter class tea party, a little event where everyone gathered to sing, dance, and relax before the holiday, and that night everything blew up, because while I was sitting there sharing snacks with a friend, Rachel Adams mentioned casually that after deleting someone on iMessage you should never keep texting, because the other person could still see the messages, and the moment she said it the entire class went quiet, and I saw Ashley's face go pale before she bolted out of the room claiming she needed the bathroom, only she never came back, and I knew instantly what that meant: that she had realized all those embarrassing messages she thought I never got, I had read every single one. The party ended late, snow was falling heavy outside, and as I walked home with my classmates, laughing and saying our goodbyes, I couldn't shake the image of Ashley's pale face from my mind, and sure enough, when I turned a corner near my street, there she was, standing under the streetlight with her head down, looking more like a drenched puppy than the school beauty she was supposed to be, and when I tried to explain that I never meant to embarrass her, that I should have told her sooner, she suddenly grabbed me, shoved me against the wall, and covered my mouth with her hand, her eyes blazing with anger and shame, before she realized what she was doing and pulled back like she'd touched fire, her face twisted with confusion and humiliation before she ran off into the snowy night. I thought that was the end of it, but when I turned another corner minutes later, she was there again, blocking my path, her head buried deep into her jacket, mumbling an apology, admitting she shouldn't have done that, asking me in a broken voice if she was ridiculous, if I thought she was annoying, and I don't know why, but instead of pushing her away I told her the truth. That I didn't think it was ridiculous for her to like someone and not dare admit it, that we were just 18 and this was normal, and when she looked up at me with red eyes and ears glowing from the cold, whispering, "If I annoy you so much, why don't you just delete me?" I said flatly, "Yeah, I could have just deleted you," and at first she didn't get it, but when she saw the small smile on my lips, she realized what I meant, and her eyes lit up in a way I had never seen before, pure hope breaking through all her fear, though she was too stunned to say anything else, just standing there frozen until I turned to leave. She chased after me 2 minutes later, breathless, her voice trembling as she stood in front of me again, begging for a chance, saying she knew her grades were bad, her handwriting ugly, her temper difficult, but she would change, she would become better, and could I give her an answer in advance, could I at least promise her something, and looking at her shaking hands and desperate eyes, I couldn't bring myself to keep mocking her. So I cut her off with 2 words, "You could," and she froze. Again, too shocked to process it, until I teased her that if she stood there being stupid any longer she'd be wasting her study time, and somehow even that was enough to make her beam through her tears, nodding frantically, declaring she had to get back to studying right away, before suddenly peeling off her own down jacket and forcing it onto me, her face flushed with determination as she ran off into the snow shouting, "Ethan Walker, I won't let you down, just wait," and watching her disappear into the night, I knew this was no longer just some spoiled girl's game, because Ashley Carter had staked everything on chasing me, and whether I admitted it or not, my heart was already starting to chase her back, even if the road ahead was going to get a whole lot harder. From that snowy night onward, Ashley Carter was like a different person, and everyone in class noticed it, because when the new semester began she was the first one in the classroom every morning, the last one to leave at night, and even when she went to the bathroom she carried a book with her, as if she couldn't waste a single second, and while the rest of us were grinding through the endless cycle of weekly quizzes, monthly tests, and practice exams, Ashley was turning into someone unrecognizable from the carefree, spoiled rich girl we'd all known, because she wasn't just keeping up anymore, she was climbing, exam after exam, improving so much that even the teachers started using her as an example, and every time she scored higher she'd message me with that mix of pride and vulnerability, "Husband, I told you I could do it, aren't you proud of me? Please say you are." Then 5 minutes later, "If you think I'm still not good enough, I'll try harder, I won't let you down." And honestly, as much as I wanted to keep my walls up, I couldn't help but feel something stir inside me, because I knew she wasn't doing all of this for her parents, or her teachers, or even herself. She was doing it for me, and no one else. Of course, she wasn't always confident, and there were nights when she broke down, spamming me with nonsense like, "Ethan, when I inherit my family's companies, I'll give them all to you, does that count as extra credit, will you accept me then?" Only to panic afterward and send, "That wasn't me, I was sleepwalking, don't believe it, but I really will give you everything I have in the future." And even though I rolled my eyes at her dramatics, a part of me found it endearing, because it was so her proud, dramatic, insecure, and yet so real. As spring turned into early summer, the college entrance exams loomed closer, and the pressure hit everyone like a storm, but Ashley never wavered in her obsession with me, still sneaking glances during class, still stuffing snacks or little trinkets into my desk when I wasn't looking, still refilling my water like it was her job, and though she never admitted it aloud, her messages every night told the truth. Words that oscillated between begging and demanding, crying and laughing, but always circling back to me, always reminding me that in her world, I was the only one who mattered. When June finally came and we all walked into the exam hall, the tension was suffocating, but when I looked across the room and saw Ashley sitting there, her head bent over the paper, biting her lip with determination, I felt something I hadn't expected, a flicker of pride that had nothing to do with me and everything to do with her, and when it was over and I got home, my phone buzzed with her message, "Husband, save me. I can't pick up the phone," followed by an explanation that her mother had dragged her straight from the exam hall onto a plane to New York for some internship, and though she was crying for help like she always did, I found myself typing back reassurances without even thinking, telling her it would only be 2 months, that she'd be back before she knew it, and for the first time I realized I wasn't just humoring her anymore, I actually meant it. I wanted her to come back. Results came out at the end of the month, and while I hit the score I needed, Ashley surprised everyone again by breaking into the threshold for a top-tier college, something no one would have believed possible a year ago, and though she barely celebrated, insisting she'd only applied to schools in the same city as me, I understood what that meant. She had tied her future to mine without hesitation. The entire summer she spammed me from New York with updates about her daily life, when she woke up, when she ate, what she ate, when she showered, even how many times she breathed if I let her, and she mailed me packages non-stop, snacks, gadgets, anything she thought I might like, so clingy it was almost insane, yet I couldn't stop myself from opening each one with a strange warmth in my chest, because every silly little thing she sent was just more proof that she was serious, that this wasn't some fleeting high school crush. When the new semester was about to start, I expected her to just show up at school, but the night before, as I was packing at home, she called me, her voice trembling as she said, "Ethan, can you come downstairs for a moment?" And when I did, there she was under the big tree with her suitcase, staring at me with those nervous eyes, taking deep breaths like she was about to jump off a cliff, and then she finally confessed again, her voice cracking as she admitted, "I know I'm awkward, I know I have so many flaws, but I really like you, and I've liked you for so long. I messed up my last confession and I don't want to mess it up this time." And then she pulled out a watch, expensive and shining under the streetlight, pressing it into my hand as she said, "I'll try my best to be better, even if I can't catch up, I'll always follow behind you, so please, Ethan, the answer I asked for months ago, will you give it to me now?" And for the first time, I didn't hesitate, I smiled and told her, "I will," and when she heard that, Ashley froze, then threw herself into my arms, clinging to me like she never wanted to let go, whispering over and over, "Do you know how long I've liked you? Do you know how happy I am right now?" And when she kissed me, awkward and clumsy but so pure it made my heart ache, I finally let myself admit what I had been denying all year, that Ashley Carter wasn't just chasing me. I had already started chasing her too, and this was only the beginning of everything we were about to face together. From that night under the big tree when I finally told Ashley Carter yes, when I finally admitted what we both already knew deep down, everything between us changed, and yet in some ways nothing changed at all, because she was still the same Ashley, dramatic, clingy, proud one minute and pitiful the next, but now instead of hiding it behind excuses or pretending it was just a game, she threw herself into it openly, still spamming me with messages every night, still demanding my praise after every test, still stuffing snacks into my desk and refilling my water, but this time she wasn't afraid of me finding out. She wanted me to know, she wanted me to see all of it, and I couldn't deny any more that I wanted it too, because by then the thought of a day without her ridiculous texts or her awkward little gifts felt empty, like something important was missing. Senior year was brutal, the second semester even worse than the first, with exams piling up and everyone living on caffeine and sheer willpower, but Ashley kept her promise. She studied harder than anyone, coming in earlier, staying later, her determination unshakable even when her confidence faltered, and every time she felt like collapsing she turned to me, sending messages like, "Husband, I don't think I can do this. I'm too stupid, I'll never be good enough for you," followed immediately by, "Forget it, I'll just keep going, I'll prove myself, I'll catch up with you no matter what," and it was in those moments that I realized just how much she had grown, because the Ashley Carter from a year ago would have quit after a single failure, would have hidden behind her pride, but this Ashley, my Ashley, refused to give up no matter how scared she was. By April and May, the stress was breaking everyone, and Ashley wasn't immune, sometimes sending me half-delirious messages at night like, "Ethan, I'll give you every company my family owns, every dollar I ever make, just let me trade it for a few more points on my test," and then hours later claiming she was sleepwalking, begging me not to believe it, only to add again, "But I really mean it, everything I have will be yours." And I'd shake my head at how insane she sounded, but deep down it touched me, because I knew she wasn't exaggerating, she meant every word. When June finally came and the college entrance exams were behind us, the air was filled with relief and dread, and I thought maybe Ashley would finally rest, but the first thing I saw when I got home was her message, "Husband, save me, I won't pick it up," and when I called she hung up, sending instead, I can't answer the phone, my mom dragged me to the airport, I'm flying back to New York tonight for the summer, I can only text, please don't forget me, and I could only sigh, typing back. That it would pass quickly, that she'd be back before she knew it, and even though I tried to act annoyed, the truth was I already missed her. The results came at the end of the month, and I got the score I wanted, but Ashley had done the impossible, breaking through the line for a top university, and while she shrugged it off like it didn't matter, insisting the only reason she cared was because she wanted to stay in the same city as me, I knew how hard she had worked, how much she had given up, how many nights she cried and picked herself back up just to keep her promise to me, and I couldn't stop the pride swelling in my chest when I thought about it. That summer she was relentless, sending me updates about every single part of her life from New York, what she ate, what she wore, what time she showered, how many times she breathed if I let her, sending me packages across the ocean filled with snacks, clothes, little trinkets, all of it ridiculous and all of it hers, and even though anyone else would have called her clingy, maybe even crazy, I couldn't stop myself from opening each one with a stupid smile, because they reminded me that even an ocean away, she hadn't changed, she was still the same girl who spammed me with, I hate you, that first night, only now she wasn't hiding behind excuses, she was throwing her whole heart at me without fear. When the fall semester started and I went back to campus, I expected her to just show up at school like everyone else, but the night before she called me again, her voice trembling, asking me to come downstairs, and there she was, suitcase in hand, her eyes locked on me like I was the only thing in the world that mattered, and for the second time she confessed, only this time she wasn't joking, she wasn't pretending it was a dare. She wasn't trying to cover up her feelings with excuses, she was trembling, awkward, terrified, but completely honest, telling me she had liked me for so long, that she would always try to be better, that even if she couldn't catch up she would follow behind me forever, and when she pressed that expensive watch into my hand, asking me to fulfill the answer she had begged for months ago, I didn't hesitate, I smiled and told her I would, and the way she lit up, the way she froze and then threw herself at me, holding me so tight like she wanted to fuse us into one, whispering over and over how long she had liked me, how happy she was, kissing me clumsily under the streetlight like an 18-year-old who didn't know what she was doing but knew exactly what she felt. It was messy, awkward, perfect, and in that moment I realized that all the late-night texts, all the jealous rants, all the crying emojis and dramatic declarations had led us here, to this night, to this answer, to us. When she pulled back just long enough to slip the watch onto my wrist and whisper, even when I'm 80, I'll remember this day, I couldn't help but smile, because I knew I would too, because for all her flaws, for all her pride and dramatics, Ashley Carter was the girl who had turned my entire senior year upside down, the girl who had fought tooth and nail to prove herself to me, the girl who refused to let me go no matter how many times I tried to push her away, and now she was mine, and I was hers, and no matter what came next, whether it was college, life, or the rest of the world, I knew one thing for sure: I wasn't going to let her down, not after everything we'd been through, not after everything she had done just to hear me say yes, because this was our story, and it was only just beginning.